Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 75. I am your host, Luka Price, and joining to me, the panel, as always, Oscar, Ruben, Tyson. How are we today, gents?
Very good, thank you.
Listen,
I'm
guys,
good.
there is a lot going on. NBA playoffs are right around the corner. Play-in starts tomorrow. We're going to talk about our round one matchups. We're not going to focus on the play-in as much for today because this will be our last episode before round one of the playoffs starts. We're going to give you all of our official predictions. That's going to happen at the end of the episode, so make sure you watch the whole thing to get to our official brackets. We're going to start with round one. We're going to go west, then east. Guys, also, side note before we start, just want to give myself some credit. Florida National Championship winners, just for any of our listeners who saw me predict that. Tyson, anything to say briefly about the college?
Was it really prediction from the start? Just a question out there.
Look, fair play, but trying to get more involved in the college. We'll see how it goes next year. Also, guys, before we get into NBA, stay tuned for some other sporting episodes coming up. That's in the works, and we're going to get started, guys. Lakers Timberwolves. What a series. I can't wait for this matchup. Now, listen, 2-2 this season, these two. 1-0 the Lakers are since the Doncic trade, but the Lakers, heavy favorites to win the series, $1.45 to Minnesota's $2.60. The line for overall games is set at 5.5 and $1.62 for the over. So they're saying it's going to be more than 5 games. Now, we know what Doncic did to the Timberwolves last year. I wonder what you guys think if that's going to have any impact this year. But in the regular season against Timberwolves, Doncic only averaged 21 points per game, LeBron only averaged 20 points per game, and Anthony Edwards only averaged 19 points per game. So not the numbers you would expect from the star players in the regular season. Now, starting fives projected for these teams: Doncic, Reeves, Rui Hachimura, LeBron, and Jackson Hayes. And for the Timberwolves, you've got Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Randall, and Gobert. Guys, the other thing, coaching matchup. JJ Redick, first playoff series. Tyson, resident Lakers fan. Who wins this series in how many games? How do you see this one panning out?
Lakers are bad.
Lakers in 5, baby. And I'm sticking with it. I'm going Lakers in 5. And I'm standing on it. Look, you've got a 3-headed monster in Doncic, Austin, LeBron versus Anthony Edwards and whoever else you want. I don't know. Bag of chips, toilet paper, you name it. Look, I think it'll be a great series. We've got a bunch of playoff rises, actually. Like, there's LeBron, Doncic, and then Ant last season taking his team to the Western Conference Finals. So definitely a great matchup. But these teams are completely different from last season. And interesting, but essentially, I'm got Lakers in 5. But we can go in depth soon. I want to hear everyone else first.
I mean, I've got Lakers in 6. I agree with T-Man. I think that I think this playoff series is going to come down to the stars, and I think that the Lakers have too much power, too much star power, especially with Reeves being ballistic, and then you've got, Hachimura, Gabe Vincent doing really well in the last kind of end of this season, and can really step up. So I think Lakers in 6. I think the big man issue will be a little bit of an issue for them, and I think that they will lose a couple games because of that. But I think the Lakers will do it in 6 at the end of by the end of the series.
Look, I'm really sorry, guys. I hate to say it, but I've actually got Minnesota in 6 games.
Oh,
No way.
Look,
Lakers hater.
look,
He's a Lakers
look.
hater.
I'm not a hater. Look,
Yes, you are.
this is way too early. This is way too early to say that I think the Lakers have been massively overrated. I still think it's very early on. They're still working out chemistry. And you're looking at Minnesota, 8-2 in their last 10 games. Ant is an absolute monster. And you guys are forgetting, this team made the conference finals last season. They can get it over the line against the Lakers. And I just think Ant is going to have something to prove in this first round.
Ruben, how do you think the performances of playoff Randall and playoff Gobert are going to impact this? I'm just curious, because personally, I'm very concerned about those two. I don't think Anthony Edwards can just rule it on his own.
Look, Gobert, fine. And if AD was still in the Lakers, I'd be very worried. But when you look at Julius
What?
Randle, bit of a shaky start, but he's been really performing in the last 20 games, and I really think he can step up against this Lakers team. And you've got to remember as well, Lakers are his old team too. So he has a point to prove. I think this team has a point to prove, and I think the Lakers still need a lot to figure out with this roster.
Luka Doncic chopped them up last year, and you're saying that magically Anthony Edwards is going to come this. He has to go ballistic. He has to average 40 if he wants to be anywhere to beating this Lakers team. He got chopped up single-handedly, not single-handedly, but pretty single-handedly by Doncic last year, and you just think magically Ant's going to appear out of nowhere and beat Doncic this year.
I think you guys are really underestimating
but
this
then then on top
team.
of that, you've got LeBron James, who is the best of all time, one of the best of all time, and then you've got AR, who's been ballistic, who's one of the best paid, the most underpaid players in the league for what he's doing for the Lakers, and you're just saying Ant is magically going to be this guy.
Well, I think the Minnesota have a great defense as well, and I still think Lakers are lacking a bit in the defensive end. You've got Jaden McDaniels, you've got Ant, and you've got other players who are able to... So when you have LeBron, AD, and Luka, who's going to be guarding Ant? Who's going to be guarding Julius Randle? We need to be
who was
looking
guarding
at this from
Doncic
both ends
last
of the
year
floor.
when he had 32, 10, and 8 on them for a whole series on 47, 43, and 85 shooting splits and absolutely annihilated them in 5 games?
And now we've got LeBron standing next to him and AR standing next to him with some great role players. Yeah, they're not the biggest guys in the world, but you've got DFS, who's been brilliant, and you've got Gabe Vincent, who's been brilliant, and you've got Rui Hachimura, who's been fantastic in the end of the season. And now you're just saying that these guys are all going to disappear, and Ant's going to be the savior for Minnesota.
Well, no, but I don't think. But I think you're really underappreciating Minnesota. They've also got star players. I can talk about Dante DiVincenzo coming off the bench and creating an output, as well as Naz Reid. Look, I can see you smirking.
Mate, he has not been what he was in New York.
This is a team that made the conference finals.
And then you've got added Julius Randle, who's done nothing in the playoffs since ever.
Listen, the one thing I know is that Doncic loves absolutely torching big men. And I remember that if you remember his quote from after the Lakers-Dallas game, and he said, which part of the tribute video made you the most emotional? He literally said when he hit a step-back 3 over Gobert in Game 5 of the conference finals and cursed him out in Slovenian. So I think he just has an absolute point to prove. Tyson, I interrupted you. Go on, what were you going to say?
No. I'm ready to fire when it's my time. Look, Rubes, you mentioned Minnesota being 8-2 recently. 3 teams have been over 500 in that time, that phrase just there, and they only beat the Nuggets by 1 point. That was without Jamal Murray. They've versed under 500 teams, 8-2 recently. Second point, you're talking about Lakers defense, especially against big men. Have you seen what they did recently against the Rockets, Nuggets, and Mavericks?
Oh, come on, don't talk about the Rockets. Don't talk about the Rockets.
What do you mean? Sengun's a great player.
They've been poor lately, and Sengun missed that game against the Lakers. Look, the Rockets have been amazing, but they're not going to do anything in this playoffs. I don't want to hear anything about the Rockets. They've been really good, but...
I'm saying specifically against big men. You said the Lakers lack defense against big men. What did Alperen Sengun give up? 14-7. That's it. Played 35 minutes. You want to know about Jokic? What did he put? 12-13, 35 minutes. Even AD, 14-11, 35 minutes. I don't want to hear this narrative the Lakers can't play defense. If you watch closely in their games recently, especially against that only one sample size of the Minnesota game, they're just switching non-stop. Switching and making them drop down into the paint, letting them shoot. So,
Rubes, I agree that the Minnesota's defense, what are they, 6th best defense in the league? It's a good defense. They are, that's their thing. They're really good defenders. But when you have the firepower that the Lakers have, I think they're going to win a couple games. I think Minnesota are going to win a couple games. But when you have the firepower that the Lakers do have, I just don't think it's plausible to say that Minnesota are going to win this series.
Look, I'll be quick. The only red flags for me is the Lakers' away record and the fact that they've still only been together since February. Look, I know stars figure out how to play with each other. If we were talking about they've been playing together, start of the season, minimum 60, 70 games, then fine. But, I still think they're still trying to figure stuff out. And I still think there's that vulnerability of
Yes.
chemistry.
Especially when the stars are Luka Doncic and LeBron James. They know how to play. LeBron knows how to play with anyone. LeBron can stand up and play with anyone in the league. So I just don't think there is a mesh issue there that is going to be big enough that they're going to lose this series.
Also, by the time this series starts, LeBron's going to be on 9 days rest. And I think that's something that's also vital when you look at you need the Lakers to have that rest. And they've locked up the 3 seed. So I think when you look at that, that's something that's going to impact them as well. And if I'm being completely honest, I just don't think that Minnesota has enough to really compete with the Lakers at all. I don't think apart from Anthony Edwards, I really don't think they have players that can step up in the moment. Sure, you could maybe say Dante DiVincenzo, but I think he was maybe magnified in a really, really good New York situation last year where he was loved by the team, where he was loved by the players. They were his best friends. And I think he's taken a little bit of a slump this year. You have players that could maybe do it for Minnesota. Like you have Naz Reid, who won 6th Man of the Year last year, but they traded Karl Anthony Towns thinking that Naz Reid would fill that void, and he hasn't really done that much this year. I don't expect Nickeil Alexander-Walker to be doing that much. And Randall, like I said, he averaged 16 points, 8 rebounds on 37 and 27 splits in his last playoff run. I don't think that's conducive to winning, Rubes. And if I'm being honest, I'm going to go out on a limb here, guys. I don't even think Minnesota's going to win a game. I'm calling a sweep. I'm calling a sweep.
I love that.
I'm calling it.
Nothing
I'm
wrong with
sorry. I just think that the same way that Anthony Edwards, torched a really good Suns team in the 3-6 matchup last year, then we all thought that Suns team, because they had really good players, were just going to come in with their firepower and knock off the Timberwolves. I think we're going to see a situation this year where, unfortunately, Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves are going to be too overmatched. And I just think the Lakers really like this playoff matchup compared to some of the other opponents. If I'm the Lakers, the only other team I would have rather play in the first round, considering I had the 3 seed, would be the Grizzlies. I think Minnesota, when you compare them to the Clippers, the Warriors, and the Nuggets, I would much rather play Minnesota than any 3 of those teams.
I mean, counter argument, Luka, the Lakers tend to lose a couple games.
They do, but I also think that the Lakers, and I think Doncic in particular, when you look at what happened last year in the finals, you look at how LeBron is on that quest for that 5th ring, you look at how the Lakers, I think, have a different type of motivation this year that maybe they haven't had in years past. And they're trying to do something that hasn't been done with the mid-season star player acquisition, winning a championship in that first year, which has not been done historically. So any final opinions before we do have to move on, guys? Because I also just want to make sure, Rubes, what score do you have this series?
I have Minnesota in 6.
In 6, okay.
Yeah.
And Oscar and
And
Tyson, you
all
were
I'll
both
say-
in 5.
Yeah. All I'll say quickly as well is that, I agree, Luca. I think Julius Randle can't be poor if they were to beat the Lakers. I think he's got to step up. I don't think he has to be amazing, but I think he's got to give some production. He's got to give the cat numbers. So I will concede that. That's the one thing I will concede.
I think those cat numbers are amazing, so he has to be amazing. Not enough.
Oscar, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just think that if Minnesota want to get close to winning this, Anthony Edwards has to be this monster that is unstoppable, and I just don't think he's going to be able to step up to being that guy. He's great. Anthony Edwards is great. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying I don't think he's going to step up that much that he's going to be this thing that is unstoppable.
Yeah, I think maybe he can step up, but I don't think it's going to result in wins.
Yeah. He's not going to average 50 a game.
No.
He's
Anyway, guys, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the 4-5 matchup. This is something where I think we might have a bit more disagreement on, because the Denver Nuggets basing my Clippers in the second round. Who thought the Clippers would be here? None of you guys did. All right, I still had faith.
I don't even
All
think
right.
you did you?
Yes, I did. What are you talking about? I so had faith. I always have faith in my Clippers, all right? Especially with a healthy Kawhi Leonard. These guys are looking dangerous. They absolutely gave it to the Warriors, who were playing unbelievable, and they still managed to win. Harden had 39, Kawhi had 36. They were balling out, guys. They're 2-2 this season against the Nuggets. The Clippers won the first two, Denver won the second two, and Kawhi has played in 0 of those games. Now, the line of this game, the odds makers don't really know what's going to happen. It's kind of a flip 'em series. The Nuggets are $1.80 favorites. Clippers are $1.96. Now, the Clippers 13-2 in their last 15 games, guys. I'm pretty sure there's something like 18 out of 21 going back even further. Denver, on the other hand, they fired their coach. They're 6-9, but they have gone on a nice little winning streak to end the regular season. Now, guys, obviously, it's Jokic we're talking about here. And we know what he brings to the table. But the way Kawhi and Harden have been playing as of late, if they can continue that momentum into the playoffs, I think this is going to be a long, hard-fought series. Oscar, what are your thoughts on this series? Who do you have winning it?
I think you'll be surprised by this. I've got the Clippers winning it in 7. I think the Clippers have looked unbelievable with Kawhi back, and their home record. They've won 13 out of the last 14 is their home record. And you know what? Denver's a great team, and Jokic is a MVP player this season. Probably should win it. But I think that the addition of Kawhi to this team, and then with the supporting cast of James Harden, who's been fantastic and who can score the ball and facilitate the ball, as we've seen all season, and then with Norman Powell also having a ballistic season, and then with Zubac also doing his thing for the Clippers this season, I think they are going to be, they're just going to edge the Denver Nuggets a little bit, and they're going to win in 7.
Look, if you asked me at the start of the season or for 99% of the season, I would always back Denver. I love Denver.
I agree.
love
I
Jokic.
agree.
And I don't know. I think with the coaching changes, I think I've seen a bit of a decline in Denver. And seeing Kawhi really healthy, how they've played in the last 10 games, Kawhi's been outstanding. So is Norman Powell, Oscar, like you said, all the supporting cast as well. I think Kawhi's health is going to be the X factor in the series ultimately. And Luka, I've got Clippers in 6.
I agree. I think if Clippers have injury, if Kawhi has an injury, I think it's going to be Denver in 6. Yep. But I think if everyone stays healthy, which hoping to God they do, because I want to see a great series. Clippers are getting it in 7, getting it done.
Wow, I'm quite shocked by you two.
Honestly, me too.
Clippers haters over here going for the Clippers.
I know.
You quickly assume something, because I also have Clippers in 7.
I
also have him in 7. Look,
we've shocked Luka. We've shocked him.
Look, Jokic is going to be Jokic regardless. I know that for a fact. But I just think the starting 5 of the Clippers definitely overrides the starting 5 for the Nuggets, for sure. Especially recency bias as well. But also just the fact that Denver, fired Mike Malone. You're having an interim head coach going into the playoff with 3 games experience as a head. Another incident where Christian Brown took everyone for dinner besides Aaron Gordon. Oh no, Michael Porter Jr. Where's the team chemistry going? It looks like everything's gone downhill. Nothing looks good for the Nuggets at the moment. Jokic is, I don't know, he looks like he's about to spew. So I think this is definitely the end of something for the Denver Nuggets. And I think Clippers have been performing well above expectations for the season. And yeah, as you guys said, health is the main factor in this series.
Well, the only stable thing for the Nuggets right now has been
just Jokic.
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
so,
that's literally the whole team right there.
So yeah, to blow up your team like that right before the playoffs, when your team has a very good chance of getting through the first round and getting through to the conference finals, because you are Denver and you do have the best player in the league on your team.
And we're still massively above 500 as well.
Yeah, and to blow it all up like that is a little bit crazy, and I think it's going to, especially in the playoffs, is going to cause issues.
Yeah, and I know Jamal Murray is a playoff riser, but I just don't see it happening this time around.
I mean, hurt as well. Like
I don't think he's okay. And then you're adding Kawhi, who is one of the best defenders we've ever seen. I think the Clippers just are gonna, they're just gonna be a little bit better than the Denver Nuggets, and I think that's all they have to be.
Yeah. I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think Kawhi needs to shoulder a lot more of the offensive responsibility. I think the way that he has gone down these past few seasons, if I'm being honest,
But he has been lately.
he has been what?
He's been more in the offensive game. Ever since he's
but-
come
but
back,
what
he's
I'm
been
saying
fantastic.
is because I disagree with you. I do not think Kawhi is as good defensively as he once was.
No, obviously
I
not.
think
But you're
I've
still
seen
adding
him
an elite
many
defender.
times. Since he's come back, I've seen him many times get a bit lost on the defensive side of the ball. Whether that's because of effort, I think it's because when you get those knee surgeries over and over and over, it's a lot harder to slide on that ball.
It is fitness. It is fitness, but you're still adding this defensive mind. You know, he's still got that defensive IQ and
I
can lead the
completely agree.
defense.
Yes,
and you're still adding that back into the side that needed it.
I'm more specifically talking about his on-ball, one-on-one defense. I've seen him look a bit vulnerable many times.
Well, look at Klay Thompson after his injury. He was an amazing defender, and then
but when you
dropped
look
off
at
after the injury.
the Clippers have constructed a roster that was able to keep themselves competitive throughout the season. When Kawhi came back, that was the hope that would put them over the top because you put him in there. You got Chris Dunn. Who would have thought the defender he's turned into this season? He's in the starting lineup now. They got Derrick Jones Jr. He is a good defender. He's got long arms, good length. He can catch lobs. He can defend. He can do a lot of things. You've got Zubats, who I think is not going to really be able to do anything with Jokic because no one can really do anything with Jokic. But when you have a big man that can at least take on, in terms of the matchup, when you look at a series of the Lakers, Jackson Hayes isn't going to be able to do anything in terms of going head-to-head with Jokic. But Zubac's been averaging 19 and 13 over the last 15-game stretch. He's been playing really well. But Kawhi, guys, 27, 7, and 4 on 55 and 90 shooting splits in these last 15 games. He was averaging 31, 7, and 4 in the finals in the playoff run with Toronto. He is nearly playing at that level, which is scary to think about. But guys, what are your thoughts on playoff Harden? Because this is something that I think can really detriment the Clippers in this series. I have my own thoughts, but I'm just going to give you guys some numbers because I am a big believer that playoff Harden is a real thing. And that was one of my biggest concerns when he went to the Clippers in the first place because I thought, I do not want this guy on my team come game 6 and game 7. And the numbers aren't as drastic as you think. But his shooting splits, I'm just going to read this out to you, go quite a bit down in games 1 to 4 in his career compared to games 5 and 7. So he averages 43, 35, and 87.5 shooting splits in games 1 to 4 throughout his career. Compared to in games 5 to 7, he averages 40, 29% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line, which maybe isn't super significant, but the fact that he has consistently always played worse later in the playoffs. We saw him have an absolute stinker the last time he played in a game 7 when he was playing for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm just worried that he might negatively affect the Clippers' chances of winning. Does anyone have any thoughts on how the Clippers can either overcome that or whether we think he's just going to have a great series?
I mean, he does step down in the playoffs, but you have a guy like Kawhi who we know steps up in the playoffs. So, he's been around people in previous teams where the teammate has actually been the guy stepping down as well. And then Harden has to kind of been forced in that position to step up, which, he should be. He's a, elite player. But when you have a guy on your team like Kawhi, who's been playing out of his mind and who in the playoffs does step up, I think he's going to take a more relaxed role, especially in those clutch situations when you need a guy that can hit a shot. Obviously, he can still take that shot, but Kawhi, I think, is going to really help him, kind of not shake off. I still think he's not going to be as good, but it's kind of shake off those playoff woes when he steps up. And then he's got a great supporting cast around him, and I reckon he's going to turn into more of that facilitator like he has all year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's you got Kawhi, but you can't ignore the fact that you got Norman Powell, who could have been regarded as all-star this year, honestly, and Zim as well. Two players playing their roles super well. And can't forget Norman Powell's on a tear this season against the Nuggets. He's going ballistic. So I think if Harden does stick to the narrative and, fall down a little bit, you still have two other solid guys to, pick up the slack. And just going off recently against the Warriors, I know it's not a playoff environment, but a pressured game which really determined seeding, Harden really stepped up in that last fourth quarter and overtime where he scored all the
12
17
points in overtime. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 in overtime and then the last 5 in the fourth quarter. So, I think he's showing glimpses of like playing under some pressure recently at this age, and it's looking good so far. So as long as he can keep that up, I think it's
if
great.
you look at past playoffs, you've seen when when his teammates have stepped away a little bit, Harden's he's been forced the ball. He's been forcing shots, trying to get things, especially in Philadelphia. He was forcing things so much because he was trying to get a role for his team. I just don't think that's going to happen with the Clippers with Kawhi there, who can take the brunt of the shots.
And look, I just think as well, like, Ty Lue is an excellent coach, and I think he's been the massive mastermind behind all this as well. And they've got the advantage over, and Ty Lue's obviously had that experience with the Clippers in the past and Cleveland when he was with LeBron. But I just think, like, the coaching and the supporting cast, I don't think it'll be too much to worry about. I think Harden just needs to be average. He doesn't have to be exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I agree really with what you all said. I really just wanted to know your thoughts. I think Norman Powell for me is the X factor for me in this series because, like you said, Tyson, he averaged nearly 28 points per game against the Nuggets in the regular season, and that was without Kawhi. Since Kawhi's come back, Norman Powell's also had his own injury concerns. He's only been averaging around 15 points per game since Kawhi's come back. But when you look at Harden, I think he has the ability to not have as much of an offensive responsibility, like you all said. And if he can feed someone like Norman Powell and feed someone like Kawhi, but I need Kawhi to take this series by the horns because I saw a couple years ago in that bubble, I'm worried the Clippers might still have a bit of nerves about that. And I know it's a different team, but stuff like that stings, okay? And I saw Kawhi in a Game 7 in the bubble have an absolute stinker, okay, and give the ball to Paul George and say, no, you do it, playoff P. And he hit the side of the backboard, and they were just throwing up absolute bricks, all right? So I have the Clippers in 7 as well, okay, because I'm riding with my boys, but I need Kawhi to really take this series by the horns, because if he doesn't take it by the horns, you know who is going to? Nikola Jokic. And as much as I love Ty Lue and believe there is a massive coaching advantage, they can scheme, hopefully, in a 7-game series for Jokic. But this is one of those series where because Jokic is that good, he can win this series by himself. And as much as we're all picking the Clippers, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised if the Nuggets win this series because we know that Jokic is that good. I know I'm not going to be surprised. Okay? So the Clippers need to really, and Kawhi needs to take it by the horns. And that's all I'm saying. Look, Jokic and Jamal Murray both had really good numbers against Clippers this year. They've always had really good numbers against the Clippers. They both average 50% plus from three-point percentage. I hope the Clippers can do something. I think they will. I think they're going to be on song. But don't just count out the Nuggets just because of coaching. And that's really, I think Jokic has the ability to win this series by himself. He's 28, 12, and 8 all time in the playoffs. That's something we can't just dismiss, and he's been better the past few years.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen, guys, let's talk about the play-in quickly for the West. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this. I want to know, I'm going to start with you, Ruben, resident Memphis fan, winner of the Golden State Warriors Memphis play-in game to face Houston in round 2. What do you have happening? Very briefly.
Okay, guys. I have Memphis.
He's so real, Rich.
The Warriors stink in the. I'm sorry, but if you look at the Warriors, record at the play, and they're shocking. So I think Warriors are going to beat whoever they come up against, but I'm really confident with Memphis. They've got enough star power. You're all laughing at me, but they're still above 500 record team. They're still a really good team. So I've got Memphis.
Tyson?
Look, still a decent team, but you just lost a coach, and Warriors have been on a crazy tear recently. Sorry, not the past 5 games, but
they just lost to the Clippers and they lost to the Spurs.
I just said recently. Since not the past 5 games, but since the Jimmy Butler trade has been, in full motion, they've been they've shown great signs of, Curry leading his team again, Butler doing his usual stuff. And then once you get to the playoff time, you got two guys who are playoff risers again. Like, it's all meant to be at the moment. Like, this is, I think, despite the 0-3 record in the play-in, Grizzlies are looking quite iffy at the moment. So I think Warriors should take this quite easily.
The reason I really love the play-in is because the game can go either way. Teams can. It's not a 7-game series where you can get into a roll of things, but I just think that at their best, I think the Golden State Warriors are at their best are better than Memphis at their best, and that's kind of what you can really put it up against. You can't say that Memphis are going to play like this, they're going to play worse, or Golden State are going to play worse. If you got both teams playing good basketball, I think that Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, what they've been doing all season is smoking teams that they shouldn't be winning against. So I think that's just that star power, especially in play-in, especially when you got Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler getting older, and Draymond Green, who's an absolute enforcer in big games like this. They're going to put Memphis away, and they're going to be versing Houston.
Yeah, Ruben, I think there's a decent possibility that Memphis can win this game.
It's a play-in. Anyone can win a play-in game.
Yeah, and I think it does matter they've beaten them in the play-in before, but I think as much as we give the Clippers credit for Kawhi and Harden playing really well, Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, apart from that missed layup, also played really well as well. It's just unfortunate the Clippers came away with the win in that situation. That was still a great game from the Warriors. Steph had 36 points. He's playing good at the right time. They just came up against a couple possessions away from winning that game. Same thing with the Spurs. Now the Spurs, different story. That shouldn't be happening. And they're still 23-7 since the Jimmy trade. Okay, I think we even saw a little bit of a glimpse in playoff Jimmy. Okay, of this last game. I think the Warriors are just a more experienced team. I think again for a one game do or die sort of thing. I think the way that the Warriors will be able to coach, I think is going to be really important. Now, granted, Memphis are coming off. Are they rested the last game because they already knew they were going to be in the play-in spot? I have the Warriors winning because I think that the Warriors, are just going to be the more desperate team, to be honest with you. I don't think either of these teams want to face Oklahoma City. I think the Warriors at home with Steph Curry, I think they're going to be more desperate. I'm going to throw it back on you, Tyson. If you are Houston, okay, if you're the Warriors or the Grizzlies, just in general, do you think either of those teams could upset Houston? Or if you're Houston, are you going to definitively pick Houston to beat the Warriors or the Grizzlies, depending on who they verse?
Oh, no, I definitely think one team out of that play-in match can definitely upset the Houston Rockets. I don't know if it's quite clear on who it is, but, going off experience and playoff experience again, I think it's pretty obvious someone can upset the Rockets. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that Houston are the biggest frauds in this playoffs that we've seen in a long time. They are a great team. But when it comes to this playoffs, I think Memphis or Golden State, whoever get through, they can both beat this Houston team. I just don't think they've got enough experience at all. I think if Golden State do win and do versus Houston, it's going to be like Golden State in 5 or 6 games.
I think you could say maybe the biggest fraud since the 22-23 Memphis Grizzlies, who are also so maybe there's a bit of revenge coming from Memphis. How the tables have turned. Dylan Brooks on both of those 2 seeds. So
I just think I think a Golden State Houston series will be very fun with Draymond Green and Dylan Brooks, but going at it, it'll be a very fun series to watch. I just think Golden State, as you said, Luka, are going to be more desperate to win that game or win that series, and then if they get through the play-in, they're gonna. I reckon both teams can do it, but I reckon Golden State will.
Look, I don't want to discredit Ime Udoka, but I think regardless of who gets 3 out of Golden State or Memphis, I think both of them are most likely going to upset Houston. I just think they just lack a bit of that experience at the moment. And I think once they do get that experience around them, in a couple of years' time, it could be really good. But I just don't see it at the moment.
I would definitively pick the Warriors to beat the Rockets. And I honestly would definitively pick the Rockets to beat the Grizzlies, if I'm being completely honest with you.
I agree.
I think the Grizzlies, it'll be a 7-game series if it's Grizzlies-Houston. But I think Houston is a very, very solid team. And I think when the Grizzlies, it's not like the Grizzlies are a Lakers or a Warriors where they have that veteran presence. The Grizzlies still don't really have that much experience either. They're still relatively young. Yes, they've been in the playoffs more often, but I think Houston, when you look at the games this season as well, Houston's 3-1 against Memphis. You know, they had really held Curry. They've held Curry to 16 points, which is really, really impressive over the course of 3 games. But if I'm Houston, I really want Memphis in this series. But I do think I would give Memphis a real shot to beat Houston.
You don't think Jar's grenades can can blow it all up? You know?
He's going to blow it up whoever he faces.
Well, I just want to give the Rockets a bit of respect. Like, you know,
I'm not respecting them at all in this playoffs.
Jalen Green averages 29 points per game against the Grizzlies. Like, he's played really well. So does Sengun. Like, as much as I dislike Dylan Brooks, like, he brings an edge to that team. I think Udoka brings an edge to that team. I think Amen Thompson brings an edge to that team. I think in a playoff series, I would expect something out of Fred VanVleet, who's been on a championship run once in his career. And I just think I would pick Houston in the playoff series. I think the Warriors are too experienced for the Rockets. And I think Steve Kerr's beaten Ime Udoka before. I think he knows how to beat an Ime Udoka-led team. And I think the Warriors will just have too much to throw at Houston. But guys, we're going to move on to the East. We're going to talk about Knicks Pistons. Knicks very heavy favorites, $1.20 to win the series. Considering Detroit's 3-1 against the Knicks this season, I'm actually surprised the odds are so low for the Knicks. But you look at the Pistons, they've had a great season. They're in the playoffs, but I don't think anyone's expecting too much out of them. I've heard some very, very minor talk on social media about a Pistons upset. I think Jalen Brunson now has come back. That's huge for the Knicks. Karl Anthony Towns is having a really good season. We've sort of talked about, I think me in particular, have talked about the coaching concerns I have with the Knicks, but it's a different team to last year. Like, even looking at something like in the playoffs last year, you got 30 points a game out of Alec Burks and Dante DiVincenzo, and you got 31 out of OG and Hart. So you're going to look for Mikal Bridges to step up, and you're going to look for Karl Anthony Towns to step up, who historically, he played well in the playoffs last year, but he hasn't historically been a real playoff riser. But he has had by far the best regular season he has had in this Knicks system. So I'm interested to see how this goes. Ruben, I haven't asked you first. Who wins this series? How many games? Do you think Detroit can really make life tough on the Knicks in this series?
It's so hard to say because Detroit is the same thing as like Houston and the Clippers. I've been really surprised by them. Cade Cunningham has been really outstanding. And I think Tobias Harris is that veteran presence when we talk about experience. But I still think that the Knicks are too good. Like, yeah, they have been a bit shaky and not as good as we all thought they were going to be, but I still have New York in 6 games. Just because, like, when you look at the Madison Square Garden, really hard to play, and we saw that in the last playoffs. So, especially with that home court advantage, I would give it to New York in 6 games.
Amen.
No, you go. After you.
I think that, you know, obviously Detroit have surprised us this season, but and they look rejuvenated as a team. They look hungry. They have a bit of that swagger back that Detroit we've seen from past Detroit teams. I think this is a horrible matchup for the Knicks. I think that Cade...
I completely agree.
Yeah, I think this is not the team that you probably wanted to verse if you are the Knicks. I think Cade Cunningham is going to tear through this team as he's been doing, you know, all season. That being said, I do think that the Knicks will win in 7. I think the Pistons will take them all the way. And then I think the Knicks will win at MSG. But I think Detroit will be very hungry to win this series. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was an upset. And I am very surprised about the betting odds. Because you need Cat to step up for his first time in the Knicks uniform in the playoffs. And yeah, and then you've got, you know, Jalen Brunson, if he re-aggravates an ankle, because, you know, they can linger around those ankle injuries, especially in a playoff series. And
he got injured last year in the playoffs in that game 7.
And yeah, I think that this could go either way. I do think the Knicks are going to edge out the Pistons, though, just because of experience, and they've been here before, and the Pistons are a fresh new team, a breath of fresh air. But yeah, Knicks in 7.
Yeah, look, I have this game going to 7 as well. However, I do have the Pistons taking it
There you
in
go.
a 7-game series.
Wow.
You're gonna win it,
I
Madison
know,
Square.
I know. They definitely can. Look, this Pistons team, they're redefining like a grit and grind era. These guys are probably the most hungry team in the playoffs on both conferences. Like, these guys, they're young, they're hungry, they want it. Cade Cunningham is trying to show everyone why he was the number 1 pick, and his name hasn't been spoken that much. He's been going on a tear. And then also, I don't know if you guys saw, but the Pistons Arena, they're only selling tickets to the Michigan area. They're trying to create that arena atmosphere.
That's pretty cool. I did not see that.
It's really cool, but they're trying to
I can see
create
that.
a whole atmosphere. Trying to mimic, I guess, the Madison Square Garden. Obviously, you're not going to replicate it, but I think they're definitely calling for an upset this series. There's a really good chance. I think, like you said, Oscar, matchup nightmare. This is definitely not who you would like to face in the first round. Definitely will be a test, but I do think the Pistons have the capability to upset them in a 7-game series.
Yeah. As someone who really likes the Knicks and what they've done the past few years, I was really rooting for Detroit to beat Milwaukee in the last 2 games they played, because I think the Knicks would have loved a matchup against Milwaukee. They've historically been really good against the Bucks with Giannis and with Dame, even they wouldn't have to face him in this series. I think, Oscar, Tyson, you hit on a lot of my points, to be honest. I think Cade Cunningham is an absolute stud. I think we've seen him tear up the Knicks already this year. Averages 31,
Gonna be
5,
hard to
and 8
guard.
on 56, 52, 80 shooting splits, which is absolutely nuts. I think this Detroit team has a lot of swag and they have a lot of grit. They have a lot of grind. Detroit, I've spoken to people from Detroit. They're a pretty miserable city, especially like they don't have a lot going on up there. They love their sports teams. Okay, and it's getting a bit warmer now, so it's getting a little bit nicer. Okay, but
Water's
Detroit,
not good close by as
okay,
well.
they love their sports teams. Oscar, what are you gonna say? You're eager.
No, well, I just think that Detroit feel like New York last year. They
Yes.
have that
Yes.
swagger in this playoffs, and I do think the Knicks are going to win. I'm rooting for Detroit, but
Yeah.
I do think the Knicks are still going to win. I think this Detroit team just has a bit of, a narrative towards them now, and have a bit of a storyline that the fans can follow, and they've got this guy called Cade Cunningham with support staff like Malik Beasley, who's been an absolute freak this season. And I think they're going to take it to 7, and it's going to be a really good game 7.
Yeah, look, I'm a bit worried about Brunson, if I'm being honest. And Jalen Brunson still currently is my favorite player in the NBA right now. I am very concerned about him, and I'm worried that we're sort of just expecting him to just get back to that same level he was pre-injury. He's only had 4 games, okay, and he had the one good game against Boston. He had 27 and 10. He played really good in the last game against the Cavs. We've seen him be very inconsistent, and he's averaged 30 points per game in the playoffs as a Knick. That's something that we need to see from him more so, and I really need these Knicks to step up. I still think they will. I also have this game going 7 series. I'm taking the Knicks because I think in a game 7, I think we overlooked sort of the things that the Knicks did last year, particularly against the Sixers. We saw Josh Hart have some unbelievable plays. We saw OG Anunoby have some unbelievable plays. Mikal Bridges has been to the finals. I expect something out of him. Juice McBride has had a bit of a disappointing season. He's had some injuries as well. He's had a couple of 10-plus points per game outings in the playoffs. In the last few games of the season. I think JB Bickerstaff is a really, really good coach, but I still think in the same wave, I think there was a ceiling with those Cavs teams. I think there is a bit of a ceiling with Detroit as well, which is round 2 for me. So I still give them a shot, and it's game 7, I was the biggest one of us at last year saying, what happened? And Oscar, you got me on this, to the Pacers. I said, there's no way after losing 3 straight games at Madison Garden, they're going to come in for a game 7 and beat the Knicks in that building, in that arena. And that's exactly what they did. So I'm not going to rule out Detroit going in there and beating them in a game 7. but I still like the Knicks in this series. I think the time it gets to game 6 and 7, I think Brunson is going to be cooking, and I think he is going to have to be the best player in this series if the Knicks want to win.
I also think that Cat and Mikal Bridges are going to have to be the best player. You know, Brunson's usage rate is massive for that team, and the whole offense runs through that team. You need someone like Cat to step up in this playoffs and be that offensive monster that we know he can be.
Yeah, completely agree. Interested to see how this one goes, but I think this is going to be a great series. Just from a physicality standpoint, two like crazy basketball cities like going at it. You know, they're not that far away from each other. There's a bit of proximity there too. Like, it's going to be awesome. We're going to move on. Final first round series we will talk about until we go through our official brackets for the playoffs. Bucks Pacers. Now Pacers, pretty heavily favored, $1.45, Milwaukee $2.60, despite the Bucks being 3-1 against the Pacers, albeit Lillard did play in all 4 of those games. Only averaged 18, 6, and 9, but still solid numbers. They also had 5 players average 10 plus points per game in those games. Giannis, as always, gets his 30, 12, and 8 against the Pacers this year. Did not play against them in the playoffs last year. Look, there's a lot of good things in this series. There's a bit different with Giannis playing Dame, no Middleton, you know. Personally, for me, I'm going to go first this time, and I'm going to throw it over to you guys. I just think that in the same way that Jokic could win this series, could win the Clippers series on his own, Giannis could win the series on his own, but I think the Pacers just have too much depth, and I think it's going to be a similar story of last year, where I think the Bucks are going to have a hard time closing out games without Dame on the floor and without Middleton, really. Like, you get Kyle Kuzma in a trade, but Kyle Kuzma's not going to close for you. Okay, you got Kyle Kuzma in a trade because he can put up the numbers that hopefully Middleton could have put up when he was sort of a bit down in his career, and Dame is going to be a closer. I don't think Giannis, he's never been a closer. I don't see him, I can see him winning games, but I don't see him closing. I think the Pacers just got too much firepower. They got too many people going on. Mathurin didn't even play in the playoffs last year, and they still were able to get to the conference finals. Neesmith has played unbelievable in 2 games against the Bucks. And I think they've just got a really, really good team, and I think they're going to cause the Bucks a lot of problems in the same way they did last year. Giannis, in the same way Anthony Edwards, I think will get his. I just don't think it's going to be enough when you look at what they got. Oscar, what are your thoughts on this series? I got
how
the
many
Pacers
games?
Pacers in 6. Pacers in 6.
I've got the Bucks in 7. I think I'm going off pure narrative here. I think Giannis didn't play last season. They got embarrassed the season before that when he only played a couple games. I think he doesn't want to go out in the first round this season. I think he is going to have an extraordinary season. I'm going to call it now. He will average, if not a triple-double, 30-point triple-double, a near 30-point triple-double for this series. I think he's going to carry this team to victory. You know, Indiana Pacers, they're great coached. There are a lot of good players playing good. It's not one player playing great, and that's the difference here, that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to have one player playing great, whereas the Pacers are a few guys doing a lot of things. But I think the support cast for the Bucks is not great. Kuzma can get his, and he can make, he's got a very good mid-range shot. He can hit a 3. Brook Lopez, very good defender. I think Giannis will carry this team to victory in 7 games. Just based off narrative, I think he's pissed off. I think he wants to win a series. He wants to have a little run. I think they're going to have a little bit of a upset here.
Look, I'm going to try and be as respectful as I can, but I think this is going to be very mid versus mid. I think it was really hard for me to pick this series. Like, this is honestly a flip of the coin for me. I saw a Pacers team 4 seed on the line against Cleveland, who had no one from their starting 5 playing, nearly lose that game, so they're very shaky. And then you got the Bucks, who Dame's out, and they've got the greatest playoff coach ever in Darvin Ham and Doc Rivers, so you've got that as well.
2-time NBA Cup.
The greatest ever playoff coaches. Look, it's a flip of the coin, but I slightly give it to the Pacers just because they have home court advantage, and I think they have more star power and more depth than Milwaukee. So Pacers and Suns.
Yeah, look, Rims, you nailed it. Look, it's ass versus ass. This was the hardest. This was the hardest series for me to predict. I didn't want to do it. It could really go either way, but going based off the Pacers like offensive powerhouse, everyone's playing a great role. They're good at playing their role. And losing Dame is pretty detrimental for the Bucks, especially their supporting cast being well. He's not fully out. I know that he potentially could come back sometime soon. I don't know how soon, but the supporting cast of Kyle Kuzma being your, I don't know, was he his next best option? I don't think that's great. But I did see a
You don't mess with Bobby. You're not messing with Bobby.
No,
Listen, they're riding an 8-game win streak as much as, like, I'm picking the Pacers. They are riding an 8-game win streak. So
I mean, but the Pacers are 8-2 in their last 10 as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, they are. But I'm just saying, like, it's positive for Milwaukee.
I just think that Giannis is going to come into this series and he is going to go ballistic, as we've seen him do all season. He's had an MVP type season. He's been up there all season in terms of projected votes, and he's going to come in with this little support stuff, and he's going to carry this team. And Luke, you're saying, in the clutch, he may not be that guy, but I just think he's going to, in his mind, he's just going to have to be, and he's going to do it, and that's just it. And I think there's a narrative here that they got embarrassed last season. They got embarrassed the season before when he was playing, and he's only stepped up since then. So I just think that, this team isn't a bad defensive team. You have Giannis, one of the best defenders that we've ever seen, and then you've got shot blocker Brook Lopez, who also is one of the best, has turned into one of the best shot blockers we've seen lately. So this team I reckon, is going to edge them out just in 7 games.
And I'm a big Giannis fan. I think the Bucks make the finals at the start of last season. Like, I am a big believer in the Bucks, but I just think that, like, for this series, I don't know. I just think that the Pacers, I think they made the conference finals for a reason last year, and I think they'll just be able to pull it out. And I agree. Giannis is probably going to be playing in a way that we haven't seen him play. I think we've honestly sort of underrated Giannis a little bit with how good Doncic has been and how good Jokic has been and how good Shea has been this year. And I think because they have Doc Rivers as their coach and, it's Milwaukee, Giannis needs to do something. And if I'm being honest, Oscar, I'm a bit worried about Giannis having a monster playoff series, the rest of his team not coming along, and then we're going to have some real off-season questions about Giannis and his future in Milwaukee.
Under the Bulls.
Now, that's for another time. Listen, guys, that is going to be it for our playoff predictions. We're going to get into the brackets now because I'm very interested to see where we're going. So I'm just going to repeat my round 1 predictions. We won't go... For round 1, we'll just say the teams. We won't go games. We'll go games from round 2 on. I think the Thunder's going to beat whoever they verse. I think in the Warriors, I'll probably have it in 7. I think if Memphis, I think I'll have it in a sweep. Clippers in 7 against the Nuggets. Sorry, I take it back. I am going to say the games. Lakers to sweep. And the Rockets, depending on who they verse. I think the Warriors would beat them in 6. I think the Rockets, I'd have them in 7 against the Grizzlies. The Cavs, I think, will sweep whoever they verse. I think the Celtics will also sweep whoever they verse. Pacers in 6 and Knicks in 7. Ruben, I'll throw it over to your first round before we go round 2.
Look, I think looking at the first round, like as I said earlier, I'd have Memphis in 6, Warriors in 6, whoever the Rockets play. Thunder. Yeah, Thunder, I think whoever comes out, like I've got Warriors at 8 seed. I think Thunder win in 5. Thunder's going to beat pretty much anyone. Clippers in 6. And then like I said earlier, Lakers Timberwolves. I've had Timberwolves in 6. Bit controversial. And then the East, I want to make sure I get this right. So I have Magic beating the Hawks. So then Celtics Magic, I've got Celtics in 5, Knicks in 6, Pacers in 7. And guys, you're going to hate me for this, but I have Hawks in the 8th seed, and I actually have the Hawks beating the Cavs first round in 7 games upset.
Wait, what did you just say?
Hawks in 7.
Against
Hawks in
who?
7.
That's what first was 2 weeks ago.
The Cavaliers. The Cavaliers. I genuinely believe they could pull it
which
off set
Cavaliers?
off.
The dog
Against-
or what? Cavalier dog? Which Cavaliers rooms?
King
Which
Charles
one's the dog
Cavalier.
about?
Well,
we
the
talking about
fraudulent
Cleveland Cavaliers?
Cavaliers.
We're talking
The
about
fraudulent
Cleveland.
Cavaliers.
Okay, so
The one that Donovan-
you got the Hawks. You got the Hawks winning in how many games?
7 games.
Okay. You know that Cavs team
fair
didn't.
play, Rubes.
You know that Cavs
respect
team didn't
it,
really lose all season,
I respect
and
it.
you think they're going to
But
lose.
the playoffs is different. And Trey Young, like a couple seasons
but
ago,
you-
we
but
forget
you-
how
you-
good he
you
is
know,
and
but
went to
you-
the conference
Johnson's not
finals.
playing. You do realize Jalen Johnson's
You
out.
think
No,
you
but
think
they got
this
Dyson
team that hasn't
Daniels as
really
well.
you got this
dude,
team
he's-
that hasn't really lost all season is going to lose 4 games against the Hawks, who
That's
have
playing
lost
team.
all season.
This isn't March Madness,
that-
Rubes. This is
And
the
you know what?
NBA
You've got it
playoffs.
all wrong anyway, Rubes, because the Bulls are going to be in that spot anyway.
Oh, come on, man.
So you've got it all wrong. They might,
Come
you know.
Josh Giddey kind of hit like 4 half-court shots in a row. Well, come on.
Yes,
now.
he can. Yes, he can.
Oscar,
You
let's
got
go
it.
to your round 1.
Yeah, come on. Let's move on.
So I've got OKC sweeping anyone in any of the
Even
playing.
the Warriors.
Oh
technical difficulty. there.
no, because I think
Yeah.
the Warriors are going to get through. Memphis are going to win. They're going to sweep Memphis. That's my prediction. And then the Lakers. Oh no, where am I? The Lakers will. What did I say? Lakers in 6. Then I've got Houston losing to the Warriors. So that's my round 1. And then in the East, I've got Cleveland versus the Bulls. And the Bulls getting swept. Then I've got Milwaukee edging out Indiana, New York beating Detroit in 7, Boston sweeping whoever wins that garbage series of the Magic versus Atlanta. And then I've got Boston beating New York in 5. And then I've got Cleveland beating Indiana in...
Hold on. We'll do round 2 in a second.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Oscar, give me your round 1.
So I got Thunder versus Grizzly sweep, Thunder sweep. Lakers versus Warriors in 6. Lakers, don't have to say it.
Lakers are
Clippers in
bad.
7. Cavs Bulls, Cavs sweep.
You're the Bulls as well. There we go. There we
Cavs
go.
sweep, Cavs sweep.
Kobe
Cavs
White
sweep.
averaging 40.
30-point blowout each game. Celtics got Magic, Celtics 5. Knicks Pistons 7, and then Pacers Bucks 6.
I'll go back around the other way. Tyson, continue on with your round 2, buddy. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, Thunder Clipper, second
Yeah.
round. Thunder in 6.
Ooh.
Lakers Warriors, Lakers in 6. Cavs Pacers, Cavs in 5. Celtics Pistons, Celtics in 5.
Oscar, you can repeat yours.
Yeah, so I'll start on the West. I've got OKC beating the Clippers in 6. I've got the Lakers losing to the Warriors in 7. And then
Wow.
I've got
Okay.
Cleveland sweeping Indiana. Cleveland in 5 against Indiana. And then I've got Boston in 5 against the Knicks.
Oops.
Oh, I don't want to say more, man. You're going to laugh at me again. All right.
No. Listen,
Hawks going
I got some
Okay.
second round upsets
Hawks
too.
to the
Rube.
finals! Hawks to the finals!
Okay. Thunder Clippers, Thunder in 4. Timberwolves, Memphis.
Bruce, come on.
No, and then Timberwolves, Memphis. Timberwolves in 7. And then I've got. I want to get this right.
Memphis is
Oh,
the most
Cel-
ridiculous
Celtics-
thing I've ever heard, by the way.
Celtics, Knicks. Celtics in 5. Pacers, Hawks, which is going to be another terrible series.
Pacers
I've got
Hawks is not going to
Hawks,
happen.
Hawks in 5.
No way.
I genuinely think the
way.
Hawks can make it an upset.
There's
I'm
no
not
way
joking.
they're going to beat Cleveland and then they're going to go and beat Indiana. There's no way.
They're
If that-
making the conference finals. Mark my words.
Ruben, bet on
Mark
it.
my- I will be mark-
If you're saying it on
You're that
Priceless
I'll
Takes,
put my
put a
money where my
multi on
mouth
it.
is.
Put
I
a
will
multi
put my
on
money
it.
where my mouth is.
Honestly,
I will show you the screenshots at the
you
end.
win a lot of money, Rubes, if you put them
Oh,
all.
you'll win a bloody house, Rubes.
You can take us all out for dinner if that's
Oh,
When
my
it's to make the
God.
conference finals.
Yeah, Ruben's paying for dinner and drinks if that happens.
Hey, listen, Ruben, I have some round 2 upsets of my own. First of all, Clippers in 7. Give me the Clippers over the Thunder.
No.
Wow.
Listen. I think
No.
I'm calling it. Listen,
What are we doing?
no, listen.
Cancel the show.
I really think the Clippers can do it. I think it's going to cause a lot of problems for the Thunder in the same way that Dallas caused a lot of problems for the Thunder last year in the second round. And I think the Clippers are going to be more motivated to still say that they won the Paul George trade. All right. And I think the Clippers,
Oh.
have
the Paul
some real.
George trade.
Listen, guys. I think the Clippers have some real potential to make a very, very deep playoff run. I'm not going to say how deep exactly, but I think
He's
they
scared.
could.
He's
I think
scared.
they-
He knows they're in trouble.
I think they could be going a long way. Anyway, guys. I had the Lakers in 6 against the Warriors. And then that sets up a Battle of LA conference finals,
You
which
don't
I
think
think
you
is
don't think Jimmy Buckets is going to come
a
in and
couple
beat the
years
Lakers?
overdue. So keen for a Battle of LA conference finals. Cavs Pacers. Give me the Pacers in 7. Give me the Pacers in
Oh
7.
my God! Oh
I think
my
that the
God!
Pacers and the
I
Cavs
don't
are like
hate that.
I don't
similarly
believe
don't
it.
hate that.
I
No,
can't
I
believe
I don't hate that.
I
this
think
team
the
hasn't
Pacers
lost
have-
all season.
Yeah, well, neither did the Thunder last year, and the Mavericks took care of them. All right, the Pacers, I think,
The
are going to cause a lot of
Pacers don't
problems.
quite
for
have
Cleveland.
Doncic.
I still don't trust Cleveland in the playoffs.
You
I
don't have
still do not
Doncic.
trust them one bit. Okay, I don't trust them one bit. I think the Pacers have a really good team. That's going to surprise a lot of people. And I
No
slept on
way.
them last year. I'm not going to sleep on them again. Give me the Knicks to lose to the Celtics in 6 games. I think Boston has a pretty good run to the NBA Finals. And guys, I'm going to go ahead with my conference finals picks. I think the Celtics will beat the Pacers in 5. And I look at the Clippers-Lakers series, and I think, far out.
No way!
This
Don't
is just
do it.
like,
No.
and it pains me
This is meant to
because
happen in
Don't do it.
2020, Root.
it pains me because I am
5
like
years ago.
I'm such a huge Clippers
5
fan.
years too late.
I'm such a huge Clippers fan, but also I need to be objective, and I'm going to pick the Lakers to beat the Clippers in the
Oh,
conference finals.
wow.
Here we go.
In 6 games, which
Wow.
has me setting up a Celtics-Lakers finals, which I didn't really want to do because I
Which-
think it's kind of cliche.
There's no way it's good. There's no way it's going to happen.
I think it's
There's
kind of
no way.
cliche, if I'm being honest. I think it's very cliche, but also that's kind of where my head is at right now. Rubes, I'm going to throw it. Actually, no, Rubes, you got someone hinge picks. I'm going to throw it to Tyson. Rubes, you can go last.
Okay.
What do you have to round 2? Okay. You
No,
round
no,
2 with it?
semis, aren't we?
Conference
Yeah.
finals. Yeah.
Yeah, Thunder Lakers, Lakers in 6. Celtics Cavs, Celtics in 5. And would you look at that? A Lakers Celtics final. Wow.
Wow.
I wonder who on the panel predicted that. But besides
Wow.
that,
It hasn't happened yet.
I
mate.
do have the Lakers winning in 7. It'll be an insane series.
You got LeBron lifting the trophy again.
LeBron's lifting the Larry O'Brien for the 5th time. And Doncic and Reeves lifting it for the 1st time. Don't forget that.
I've got in my conference. I've got OKC versus Warriors. OKC in 6, and then Cleveland versus Boston.
Go on. Pick him.
I think at the start of the season I picked Boston.
It's quite obvious, Oscar.
Boston in 6.
Oh.
60 Giants. You'll see last year.
And then, Oscar, what's your finals?
Then my finals: OKC versus Boston. OKC wins in 7.
Wow, big Shay guy over here. Okay, Oscar.
All right.
All right, Rubes, what do you got for us?
All right, I'll make it quick. Thunder, Timberwolves, Thunder in 5. Celtics, Hawks. No, I'm joking. I've got
Hawks to the
Celtics in
finals.
5, and then Thunder,
think the
Celtics
Hawks are gonna
final.
get a game on the
in
Celtics?
6.
Sorry,
Trey
you
Young.
have who do you have winning the finals,
They did
Rubes?
last time, Oscar.
Thunder,
Oh, okay.
Thunder, Celtics, and then Celtics in 6 games. They go
And the
back to back.
Celtics. Oh, okay.
Yeah, listen,
Boring.
Lakers Celtics for me. A series I cannot wait to see. I'm going to give it to Boston in 6. I think they're going to go back to back. I think that the Celtics, have just quietly been the best team all year still. I think they're still the most complete team when it comes to the playoffs. I think they're also a team, when you look at defensively, that can cause some real problems for the Lakers, which I don't think any other team in the NBA really can. And as much as I would love the fairy tale to end on a high note with the Lakers lifting the banner, I just don't think it's going to happen. I got the Celtics in 6, and they are my NBA champions for this year. Listen,
I
guys.
just can't believe Ruben has the Hawks going to the conference finals.
Hey,
Listen,
look,
you're underestimating the Hawks.
We have seen a
Oh, I am.
play-in team make it to the NBA Finals before 2 years ago. So if you think that Trae Young's got the same capabilities as playoff Jimmy
I mean,
Rubes,
the Bulls are beating them anyway. Like, why are we even talking about this?
well, yeah,
Come
Rubes,
on
your
now.
bracket could be busted pretty quickly if I'm being
Yeah.
completely honest with you.
Look,
But,
it's a big risk, yeah.
but so could mine. I think that the Clippers and the Thunder, when we actually talk about it, if it gets to that, is going to be actually a really fascinating series to talk about basketball wise.
Clippers could be round 1 exits.
They could. No, they
and now
very
they're
well
going.
could
Now
be.
they're going to the conference finals.
They could be. They could be. Listen, they very, very well could be round 1 exits. And I acknowledge that. I said that no one would be surprised if Denver wins. But yeah, listen, we're going to see how this turns out, guys. The play-in starts tomorrow. We got both of the 8-7 matchups going in that one. Guys, one final thing I will say before we wrap up. Had a little look at some of the bets you can put on. Kawhi Leonard, $34 to hit a buzzer beater in the Nuggets Clippers series. That's my cheeky little bet for all the punters out there. And also, for those punters out there, I would also just be betting quietly for a buzzer beater to happen in a few series. I think we got some potential for some magical moments to happen in this year's playoffs. I don't know if anyone else has scoured the odds, seen anything they like that they want to add. Otherwise,
Well,
we'll wrap up
Atlanta
with
to the
that.
conference finals. Let's go. I'm going to be ride or die with them.
Atlanta
It's not
to
even
the
on their
conference
room.
finals.
It's not even an option.
I don't think.
It's-
I
It's
don't.
not
I
an
don't
option.
think, I'm gonna have a look. I don't think
bet
you can
bet
actually
responsibly and don't bet that.
Bet. I don't think you can bet on a team to make the conference finals. Hold on, I'm gonna check.
You probably
right
can
now.
somewhere.
No, you can.
I'm gonna check right now. NBA playoffs
They're $91 odds.
to make the conference finals.
Value, plenty
Yeah.
of value
On
there.
what? Sports bet?
What's that? Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad you got that because I can't. I don't have that.
My tip. What's Warriors to beat the Lakers in round 2 if they make it to round 2. That's my tip,
Well, huge if
Yeah,
there.
I
Huge
think-
if there. Wow.
and I think it'll be
Finals
great odds. I think it'll be like crazy odds.
Well, listen, even better, Bruce. $501 for the Hawks to make the finals. I think, honestly,
There
I
you
would
go.
chuck a tenner on that. Just me personally.
Go get a deposit for your house.
I would chuck a tenner
Come
on
on,
that,
guys.
Bruce, and then take us
Come
all
on,
out for a nice dinner to Moo Moo's once that
Yep.
bet cashes off. All right.
Fat Cow on James Street. See me there.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys. We're going to have to wrap it up there. That is all we have for the official Priceless Takes NBA playoff predictions 2024-2025 season. Glad we got a bit of a different feel for the playoffs this year. We got a fair few upsets happening throughout the rounds. Round 1, we honestly didn't disagree as much as I thought we would, guys. We had a few, maybe on the other side of the bracket, I think we have a bit more clarity on what's happening on the Western side. But we'll see how it plays out. We're hopefully going to be running up some more episodes soon. Luckily for me, I'm on a bit of a break with my studies. I know you guys are probably maybe in the bit more of your middle of your semesters, so we'll see how we go. But guys, make sure to keep following us on our social media, Instagram and TikTok. Descriptions down below. And that is all for Priceless Takes, episode 75. I am your host, Luka Price, and we will see you next time.